So, for the fourth time in a row now, Nando v Movies has called upon all of us video essayists to offer our thoughts on one musical scene that especially stands out to us, whether that be for the song itself, the lyrics, the context for the scene, or whatever. And assuming I get this done on time, I encourage all of you watching this to check out the playlist and watch all the other related videos. Now that I've gotten all the preamble out of the way, I thought I'd take this opportunity to shine a light on one of my favorite series, Sword Art Online. Before I can actually address the scene in question, however, and why I think its use of music is significant, I need to answer two very important questions. One, what the hell is Sword Art Online about? And two, what's the purpose of a soundtrack? Thankfully, the latter of those two questions is pretty easy to answer, or I think so anyway. See, I kind of have this impression that a lot of people don't really understand how important a good soundtrack can be to a piece of media. I think that sometimes even really talented directors just see a film score as a series of catchy tunes to keep the audience engaged. And while I'm not any sort of music major, I think that kind of outlook is incredibly flawed. A soundtrack isn't the same as like B-roll footage. It may be in the background of most scenes, but it's integral in conveying the themes and ideas of your story to your audience, especially as it concerns leitmotifs or overarching messages. Look at something like Star Wars, for instance. I don't even really like Star Wars, to be honest, but I can totally understand why its soundtrack is so iconic. It's not just because John Williams made a bunch of really good instrumental songs. No, it's because he and all the other people who worked on the films understood how to use music to accentuate and complements the most impactful moments of the story. Fans are able to listen to tracks like the Imperial March or the Force theme and connect it with the memories of the scenes where those tracks were used. You can understand what the filmmakers are trying to make you feel in these scenes just by listening to the music, at least to some degree. And I promise all of this is important when it comes to SAO, especially once we understand the answer to question 1. So what is Sword Art Online about? Simple. It's a story about reality. More specifically, how we come to define our own reality from the experiences we have with other people and our world. Kirito, Asuna, Sino, and Yujiro, and basically every other significant character, is in some way unsatisfied with the reality that's presented to them. And the conflict of the story comes from each character's journey to find a reality where they can live happily as themselves. Kirito initially believes that reality is the online games he escaped into to try and avoid his problems at home. Asuna thinks it'll come from dutifully walking down the path her parents laid out for her. Yujiro thinks it'll come from fulfilling his childhood dream of bringing Alice back home. They're all wrong, and the journey they go on is all about learning which parts of each world, real and virtual, they need to keep a hold of to live a life where they can be happy. And this is where the track A Tender Feeling comes in. Obviously, on its own, it's not really super significant or impressive. I mean, I personally think it's a very well-composed piece of music, but it's how it's used in the anime that makes the scene I want to discuss so impactful. This track plays most prominently during scenes in the development of Kirito and Asuna's relationship, but they also tend to play it during scenes where Kirito and one of the other major characters are having a significant emotional moment or whatever. And that context is important. Like I said before, SAO is about defining your own reality, and at least as far as our protagonist is concerned, that reality is a place defined by the relationships he shares with the people he loves. It's what gives the various virtual worlds they explore meaning. From his relationship with Asuna, he's able to find something to strive for, a place to call home, and even a family. And that, finally, brings us to the scene I wish to discuss. It's right near the end of War of Underworld. Kirito, believing that he's just left behind everyone he loves in order to save the world he's also come to love, breaks down into regretful tears, only to be faced with Asuna. She's stayed behind, and now the two of them have been left to live in the underworld for a minimum of 200 years. And as they cast their gaze across the underworld, a tender feeling begins to play. There's such a beautiful feeling of finality to this scene. As the song which has come to represent these two characters' relationship underscores their words, you really get the sense that it's been a long road which brought them to this point. Two people who were, in their own way, seeking out the virtual as a way to escape their hardships, who managed to find something real in the relationship that forms between them, and came to treasure what they've gained in the virtual world as well as what they've lost. Now, facing what they believe to be the rest of their lives with a smile, eagerly discussing plans for the future and sharing in each other's company. Obviously, we know they make it back to the real world, but there's no denying the thematic brilliance of having these two characters who previously saw the virtual world as a tool, seemingly giving up their lives for its future success. Cause this is the place where they not only found each other, but so many other wonderful people and places that need their protection. And for me, personally, I can't think of anything more perfect to contribute as my one musical scene.